When the founding daddies put together the Constitution, they had a plan. It's now 2016, 2017. There's also a plan. Do they blend? Stand by.
I've spent a decade taking a bite out of conspiracy theories, unraveling urban legends, and grappling with worldwide top secret issues.
I've even racked up some of their awards.
All while ferreting out the bottom line.
On all topics, controversial, bizarre, and taboo. Interviewing movers and shakers, agitators and muckrakers.
But that doesn't answer my question. That is all I'm answering.
With me, Goharrison, as your guide.
Harrison with you. This is Goharrison, streamcasting and live FM broadcasting on the east and west coast of the United States, here and there in Europe. I want to talk to you about that which we have all been plagued, which is what the heck is going on. We have Donald Trump about to enter the White House, and endlessly on the media, no matter which side, even Breitbart, possibly, is commenting on what is allowed, what is not. What is a conflict of interest with the president? Is it okay to own yachts and buildings, receive gifts and presidents from foreign banks, foreign leaders, and all the rest while you're occupying the White House? And, well, there actually is some history to this, and we're going to boil it down in 10 quick minutes for you. I want to introduce to you Professor Stephen Pincus, Bradford Durfee Professor of History at Yale University, author of The Heart of the Declaration, and several books on 17th and 18th century British and imperial history, and the award-winning 1688, The First Modern Revolution. Professor Pincus, I want to welcome you to Goharrison.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here.
We're glad to have you aboard, and here we have a president who, I'm just going to make an analogy because I think it'll help people watching and listening at the same time. If FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, had owned a bunch of hotels, say in Nazi Germany, and had borrowed a bunch of money from Deutsche Bank to build these things, and we were going to go to war with Germany, where the president owed money to their banks and maybe their leader, would we today possibly be speaking German, I wonder?
Well, yeah, it's an interesting question. No, I mean, I think obviously there have always been sort of limits on thinking about sort of conflicts of interest in a variety of ways, and wanting to limit to have our politicians focused on promoting the common good rather than on promoting their own self-interest. And that, to be honest, those were concerns very much at the heart of what the founders thought about when they, promulgated the Declaration of Independence and founded this country.
So there's something called the Emoluments Clause. There's also the Logan Act of 1799, where you're not supposed to have, under the table, play footsie with other people, receive gifts. An emolument, a word we often don't use in America because we do prefer George Orwell's 181 words. But for those of us who want to expand our vocabulary, it's a real word with a real sense of thought behind it. The Emoluments Clause, as now concerns Donald Trump and his staff.
No, absolutely, and there's no question that the founders were very interested in limiting they wanted very much to have a country where the politicians were focused on promoting the common good and not in a position to be taking bribes or money for other people. Now, it's absolutely true, however, that the founders were very interested in promoting prosperity, but not the prosperity of a few, of an elite, or certainly the politicians in office, but the prosperity of everyone, all of the citizens in the new republic. And so, that was very much the focus.
Harris with you. We are talking to Professor Stephen Pincus. He is the Bradford Durfee Professor of History at Yale University, author of The Heart of the Declaration, several other books in the 17th century. And we're talking about this controversy going on of, does the president or can the president have a conflict of interest? If it were a Richard Nixon or even a President Obama having meetings with before getting into the White House in his mansions or skyscrapers, potentially with leaders. There he's cutting deals to build private hotels for himself. Would the public go ape? And here, the public doesn't seem to mind so much. And help us understand, are we in sync here with what the Founding Fathers had intended, or have we strayed considerably outside right now?
Well, I think in a lot of ways we've strayed very much from what the founding fathers wanted. So, in the Declaration of Independence, for example, the founders called for increased immigration. So, one of the big complaints that the founders had was that since King George III came to the crown in England in 1760, the British government had reversed, a century of policy where the British government had subsidized immigration to North America. And in the Declaration, the founders complained and blamed George III for endeavoring to prevent the population of these states, for making it harder for people to become naturalized, and for refusing to pass laws to encourage migrations hither. Obviously, that seems to run, completely in the face of current rhetoric about building a wall and deporting huge numbers of immigrants. So that seems to be extremely counter to what the founders wanted. And the founders were also very interested in promoting trade with other countries, not in creating tariff barriers. They wanted a state that was going to subsidize the development of North American industry and manufacturers. But they also wanted a state that was at the same time going to free up trade with other countries. So again, they blamed George III in the Declaration of Independence for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world. And in the same month that they signed the Declaration of Independence, they created something called the Model Treaty, which created bilateral free trade agreements, the first of which was signed with France. So in those kind of ways, it seems that we're sort of running counter to the intent of the founders. But more than that, it strikes me that what the founders really wanted and what the Declaration of Independence was about, and indeed what the Second Continental Congress was doing, was about creating an activist government, a government that would do all it could to promote the welfare, and the word they used was the happiness of all of the people. And they thought the role of government in the new republic should be to actively promote the prosperity, to build roads, to build infrastructure, which I guess is on the agenda now, but also to provide subsidies for industry, for manufacturers, and to do everything the government could to lessen social inequality.
Wow. What a radical notion. And two of my ancestors signed the Declaration of Independence, Charles Carroll of Carrollton and Stephen Hopkins. And on the other side, Abe Lincoln, the great emancipator. Also Arnold, whatever his name is. The terrible one that we're not allowed to mention. Benedict Arnold, yes. On my mother's side.
Who was also, it should be said in 1776, was also somebody very much on board with this program. And it's interesting that you're related to Abraham Lincoln, because Lincoln was somebody who said over and over and over again that every single American government at the time of seismic political change, and I think one could say that right now we're certainly undergoing seismic political change. Lincoln said that I have never had a feeling politically that did not spring from the sentiments embodied in the Declaration of Independence, meaning that what you should do in moments of political change is to go back to the Declaration of Independence and make sure that the policies you were pursuing were consonant with the founding principles. Because in the view of Lincoln, and in my view too, it wasn't Newt Gingrich who sort of invented the notion of a contract with America. This was, in fact, exactly what the Declaration of Independence was: the first contract with America.
Well, that's right. Talk about tyrants and all the rest of it that we've become so intimately familiar in our modern time. I want to thank you so much for joining us. Professor Pincus, where can we get to any of your books and learn about our own history?
Well, the books are available wherever books are sold.
I love that. That's good. Books are still sold in Los Angeles. I believe we still have two bookstores with books on paper, but they are huge, so we'll go check them out. We've been talking to Professor Stephen Pincus, Bradford Durfee Professor of History at Yale University, author of The Heart of the Declaration and several books on 17th and 18th century British and Imperial history, and the award-winning 1688, The First Modern Revolution. I want to thank you, Professor Pincus. Thank you so much for a glass of ice water in a parched desert of misinformation.
Oh, well, it's been a great pleasure.
All right, my friend. We'll talk to you later.
Okay, take care.
Thanks
Bye.
much. Harrison with you. This is Go Harrison.